We're going out on the phone line. This is not as sexy as the video looked by the poolside in St. Petersburg, but Coach Jones joining us from Florida. I'll say Happy New Year, Coach. How are things in your life right now down in sunny FLA?
Well, I came down yesterday, and I had to wonder why I really counted or why I was even It's beautiful down here, man.
Coach, it was almost 1 year ago to the day that you resigned with the Saskatchewan Roughriders and went to Cleveland. Can you take us through this last year? Because we haven't heard from you much since you left. How was it for you personally?
Well, I mean, it was a little bit of a transition. I mean, you go from being the head coach and general manager and kind of running things, and now you're more of a support staff and want to make suggestions, that type of thing. I mean, it was adjustment. It's been a long time since I've been in this position.
So, we got a lot of questions about the Cleveland Browns, I guess, and the defense, not without going any specific things. But one thing I wanted to ask you was Odell Beckham Jr. and Duron Carter, are they as similar as they look from the outside since you've been up close with both?
Well, he's a great guy. He's a fantastic individual. He works hard, and I mean, he's got his own ways of doing things, like a lot of great players.
What's the difference between coaching in the CFL versus the NFL? I mean, it seems to me that the differences would be huge, but is it as big as it seems from the outside?
Personally, I don't think so. I mean, they're players just like the players up in Canada, and like I told all the coaches this year, and sometimes they didn't believe me, the level of play and the level of player is better in the Canadian League than what they think.
Some of our viewers have chimed in with questions, Coach, and one of them is my friend from the Armed Forces, Brad Herstina, wants to know, do you recommend players that aren't a fit in the National Football League to the CFL? And if so, how often do you do that? And who are some of the guys that you've recommended that didn't fit in the NFL but were perfect fits for the CFL?
Well, I mean, it's worked both ways. There's a lot of guys in the NFL that could not play in CFL games. Those big, 400-pound, 380-pound nose tackles, ain't no way they can play in the CFL. And then at the same time, we've got some guys that succeed up in Canada, but that would fit into the NFL. And, and then you got your guys like Sammy and Dion that somebody was crazy not for taking them to the NFL to start with.
No kidding. Chris, who are you most excited about? Have you been watching some of the guys from the CFL that have recently signed in the NFL? Because there's a lot of them coming down, it seems like, this offseason. Who has a real shot to make an impact?
You know what? Sometimes by the time I start prognosticating, somebody gets, kept on a team that I wouldn't think that they would, So if they're getting an opportunity, it's because they're a good player, and it's just a matter of going to see where they fit in here.
Well, two guys I specifically want to ask you about are Derek Moncrief and Willie Jefferson. Derek signed with the Raiders. Willie's letting it be known he believes he's going to sign with the Miami Dolphins. Your take on those two guys going to the NFL?
Well, the good thing is Chris Verstetti, he's down there in Miami. And, and they got an open mind on bringing the Canadian kids down. I mean, Willie's got to be physical. The physicality part on it's the part we've talked about for years, that he's going to have to go down there and show that he can play the run, and he's going to have to show that he can do something in the special teams area. But athletically, there's not a whole lot of people that are going to be more athletic than Willie. He's 6'6", 6'7", 240, runs 4.5. I mean, those don't just grow on trees. So he's got a chance to do some things. And then Moncrief is such an instinctual football player. He's got to stay healthy, and he's got to show that he can. And he's got to play special teams. he's going to have to be a guy that can go be a core teamer down there and prove that he can play. And if he does, I mean, he's got the instincts.
What does it mean to you to see Willie win Most Outstanding Defensive Player of the Year in the CFL like he did in 2019 and then win a championship with Winnipeg like he did, given the influence that you've had on him in his life?
Well, first of all, it's well publicized. I mean, where Willie has come from, as he, got drafted and all the issues that he had prior, and I'm not trying to conjure up old thoughts or anything, but I can't be more proud of that young man because, and I'll be honest with you, the first year in Edmonton was very tough, and I had some coaches saying, we need to move on. And I said, look, anybody can coach the ones that come every day ready to assist the guys like him that you decide whether or not you're a good coach or not. And so Willie, and it came down to Willie deciding. But when Willie decided, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a pro. I'm going to work hard for my family. And, of course, he's got a beautiful family. And when he decided to do that and he matured, we got into that point, man, he's done the rest. And, again, whether he gets a shot in the NFL or not, he's a great CFL player, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm proud of the 17 years that I spent up there, and I defend the CFL every day. And, regardless of whether he gets a shot or not, he's a great player.
And that's where I'm bringing up the Dolphins because Willie's a different guy going there than he was the last couple of times he's been down south. Chris, I still don't think he's 30. Would he be? I mean, maybe now's the time.
I think he's 29. I think he's 29, and that's kind of a lot of people would consider that old. I laugh at that, but he's a young 29, and like I say, I mean, athletically he can do some things that some people can't do, and he's just got to be physical. I mean, his frame is like Pat Watkins, that tall linear guy, and that's the reason Pat struggled in the NFL. They had him playing safety, and they should have moved him to corner years ago, and he would have succeeded. And because he was so long and could put his hands on people, so it's it's just a kind of a crapshoot. You never know what some of the personnel guys are thinking about a guy.
Hey, I want to ask you, Coach. You mentioned the CFL a couple times there. Scott Milanovich going to Edmonton, as you know. We had him on the show last week. He said he missed the CFL, missed the chance to run his own show. He's very excited about the opportunity. You've mentioned you're proud of your 17 years. What do you miss about the CFL when you mention that? What do you think of when you think of the CFL?
Well, I mean, here's what I enjoy. And again, I think I've got something wrong with me, but win it, try to win it, do whatever you do. And then as quick as it's over, it's right into the personnel side of it. People say, well, the recruiting in college, we would have those workouts just week in, week out and go. I mean, I had as much fun at the workouts because it was a day of practice for me. And I missed doing that and putting the team together and making sure the pieces to the puzzle and the coaching staff. I just missed the entire. It was fun, I mean that once I got to that point, and I could basically go find the players and and take guys that a lot of people gave up on and said they couldn't do this, they couldn't do that. And the next thing you know, they're up there, they're solid citizens. Now we lost a few. We had guys that. We're given second opportunities to, and they ended up, doing things they shouldn't and stuff like that. But we've got an awful good track record of guys that are good people that have maintained the ability to and consistent enough to stay up there and put a career together. And that's what I miss most about the CFL. It's just that, and those guys are very proud. The players are very proud. The coaches are very proud. And it's a much better league than what anybody in the States gives it credit for.
Yeah, as I often say, we don't have to defend anything we know. By the way, Nick Lewis is here and Darren Dupont, too. You guys jump in anytime. But I'll just say this. I know how much you love the game. At those Florida camps, I saw you on the field. You belong on the field. And you also signed every player in yourself. So with Cleveland, it's not like you're looking for something to do, but how did your role change? What was your role with the Browns in 2019, just in terms of what you were doing day to day?
Yeah, well, my title was senior defensive assistant, and basically what I would do is I would look at the film and try to find, pre-snap keys on run pass or formation tendencies or shift and motion tendencies, things of that nature, and watch the quarterbacks and watch the receivers to see if they're doing anything when they're getting the ball. And, that's kind of was my role. I coached the nickels and had a great group of guys. I mean, just solid kids from the top to bottom. And and that was kind of my role, Now, before the draft, they did ask me to evaluate, all the defensive players. That was fun, for the first time on the NFL level to be able to, put a grade on a lot of the players. And the draft was fun, getting to see exactly who we were going to get after interviewing the guys at the combine and that thing. And so it was, like I say, it was new. And it was seeing what the new process was going to be. And so that part of it was exciting.
That's really cool. Appreciate that answer. So transitioning from that, you've been watching a lot of these guys in the NFL now. You've been watching quarterbacks, receivers, tendencies. You can't see it because you're on the phone right now, but the Titans are my team. They're in the playoffs, Chris, and they got the Chiefs this weekend. And I know they played them once already and won, but how would you be drawing up a defense to stop Patrick Mahomes this weekend?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know that you completely stop the guy. He's a lot like, like a guy like Bo Levi or Mike. He's got the ability to run, but his biggest weapon is his arm. So you can't just, man up every snap. But then again, if you're playing too far off and you're not close to those receivers, all you're going to do is watch them catch the ball. So it's and then you got to pressure him when you need to. So you have to do a good job of mixing your coverages. And and the thing is, they've got a complementary run game that that can move the ball and kind of you catch you off guard. You're going to have a change of field position play, and 50% of the games in the NFL come down to a field goal. So one big play can mean the difference in the game.
Coach, Nick, do you have anything for Coach before we let him go?
Yeah, I just have one question for you, Chris. And, I want to say thank you again and congratulations on moving down there. But were you able to take some of the things that you did here in the CFL defensively and add it to what they were doing down there in Cleveland and enhance a little bit about, how the defense was going?
Well, I know that, again, I wasn't defensive coordinator. I was a supplementary piece to the puzzle. So basically I would take, run pass tendencies. You remember how we used to always have run pass tendencies. Even when we played Montreal, we knew when Anthony Calvillo broke the huddle, and as soon as he looked that way, he was throwing that way. And Michael Benjo knocks down 6 balls. Well, that was found, before we played the game, So those are things that it was a little bit foreign for them, but they accepted some of them, and so it's pretty cool being able to take some of that stuff to our team.
Anything else, guys?
You're definitely one of the hardest workers I've ever seen, and it was a privilege to be around you. And just to touch on it again, I don't think people give you credit for how passionate you are for your players. And all your players love playing for you, and you're very passionate about them, on the field and off the field. And, that's just tremendous.
I appreciate that, man. Like that band of Pirates that I used to call a staff, that would travel around with me, McAdoo and J-Jack and all those guys. It's like a family, and the way I always treat my players and coaches, it was like, like I'd want my son to be treated, like I'd want my family to be treated, to hold them to the highest regard and highest expectations. But at the same time, you can put your arm around the guy when they do something good or bad and roll with it, and I loved it, still love it, love my players, and it's the memories. It's not, everybody always says it's about the money with me, but I love the players. I love the memories, and hopefully they're not over. Hopefully we can continue to keep getting these things.
Yeah, hopefully I'm on that band of Misfits one day.
No doubt, man.
All right, Coach, we appreciate the time. I know you're busy. I just want to say all the best in 2020. Looking forward to hearing what's next. Miss you up here. Hope to chat soon.
You know it, guys. Good to talk to y'all.
All right, Chris Jones from St. Petersburg, Florida, chiming in this morning, and sounds like he's in a pretty jovial mood, wouldn't you say?